All right, let's find out how well this tool works. What I will tell you is I've noticed that some of the grub screws are a little bit loose from the factory. So take the tool that they give you before you begin, avoid a little bit of frustration, and just slide it in there and just snug them, make sure they're snugged down, because if they're not, when you're in there and you get everything aligned, get everything perfect, as soon as you start turning the handle will turn, you won't get any feedback, and that's because the shaft is spinning inside because it's loose. So go ahead and tighten it up, and that way you can avoid that. The other thing I want to tell you about these is that the very tip of this, if you'll take a look, these are really tough tips. These are tougher than any I've ever made, but you can see there's not a lot of meat there. So these are clearly spot welded on there. This is not a tool that you can use to bully or force locks. It's not delicate, but it's not really designed to put a lot of stress on that tip by really torquing around there. These locks generally don't require that. If you find yourself in there and you've got it on a disc and you really have to apply a lot of torque on this piece to move that disc, either loosen up on your tension a little bit and try it again, and if it's still seized up, stop. It's not an emergency to open the lock, and you certainly don't want to break it. Now, I know we get an extra tip. I'm just trying to help you avoid breaking the first one. Just recock the lock, reset everything, and start again. And chances are when you pick those discs in a different order, it won't seize up quite so badly. So you'll get it open. Just be a little bit patient with this. Don't try to brute force with this tool. You can probably tell it's not designed as a crowbar. All right, before we begin now, we've got everything tightened up. That's ready to go. What I will say is take your key. If this is a disc detainer lock, they don't always work from the factory, believe it or not. So put it in there, turn it, and make sure that the thing works. And this one does. A little chain pops out. So let's go ahead and put him back in there, lock it back up, and recock it. All right, because we're going to be tensioning in the clockwise direction, let's go ahead and spin all of our discs clockwise so that the tensioner is literally up against the stop. And then we'll pick the rest of the discs basically counterclockwise to find the gauge. So in order to do that, you're going to need a flat piece of material like this. This used to be a tensioner, a top of the keyway tensioner. The tip broke off and I just ground it, and I've used that pretty successfully. It can be pretty much anything. So slide it in as far as it'll go, rotate all of those discs, and do a visual. Make sure you didn't miss one. Sometimes you'll hit one at the bottom, you get all but that last one, and then the picking job doesn't go so well. So just do a double check, make sure we got them, and I think we did. Also note how this is oriented. Now, notice the slot is oriented like this. So take a look at your pick. In this case, look at the tensioning prongs there. So when they're in there, our arms are going to be opposed. In other words, at 90 degrees to that lock. That's what we want. If they were rotated the other way and it was aligned with the lock, it's really hard to grab and to tension it. So before you go to any trouble, just double check that your prongs are going to give you access to the tensioning arms there. If they're not, go ahead and loosen these up, rotate that 90 degrees. You can see that there's 4 sides on that are flattened. So just rotate it 90 and then tighten them back up to make sure your arms are, somewhere in that range so you can more easily tension it. All right, let's go ahead and try to pick this thing. I am going to, first of all, align the tip with the prongs. If it's like that, it'll never fit in the keyway. So I like to align it, just pinch it, and then I use my fingers here as a guide. I line it up with the hole and slide it in. Now once I feel the tensioning prongs go into the tensioning disc, at that point you're aligned. Just go ahead and take your tip and just work it back and forth a little bit. And I like to work it all the way to the back of the lock. I start from the back. At that point, you're ready to go. Apply a little bit of tension, not too much. You remember, you have the effect of leverage here by these little arms, and you're actually camming that sidebar into the side of the disc, so it doesn't take a heck of a lot of tension. If you do too much, they're all going to bind up and none of them will pick, or you'll break your tip. So just a little bit of tension, and then I'm going to zoom a little bit so you can get an idea of what's going on here. I believe that's focused. Hope that's focused. All right, what we want to do is just spin it back and forth and pull it out. Extract the tip until you find that first disc, and he happens to be right there. Now, unfortunately, the line is a little bit offset. We really can't see it. I'm going to back that out. I'm not positive that's focused real well. So we're inside of the disc. You can see he's not moving and there's no gate. So I'm going to just take and move him counterclockwise, because remember, he's already moved as far clockwise as he's going to go. So let's just back him up a little bit. Let me get him aligned a little better there. Where'd you go? There you are. Come on. All right, I didn't feel it fall into any gate. And if that happens, it probably means he's not the binder. He's not the one pressing against the sidebar. So just take him and just push him back where he started out from. Now, you're kind of hedging your bet there. If he was a binder and you didn't find a gate, that tells you that his gate is as far forward as it'll go. In other words, as far clockwise. So you're making a bet there. I'm not saying that's where it's going to end up, but the odds are good. That's where that gate is. Okay, move to the next one. Now make a note of where we are. Notice how the edge of that is lined up with the line. Chances are every disc will also line up very close to that. So let's line him up and try to pick him, move him back. Okay, again, I didn't detect anything. I'm going to move him back to where he belongs. He's really binding up. All right, so I'm going to release my tension a little bit and move him back. Now that was a nice click. So I suspect his gate is as far forward and it was as far clockwise as it will go. So I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to move to the next one. He should be right in here somewhere. There we go. Again, counterclockwise. Okay, I felt him fall into the gate, and you can see it's a nice wide gate. So I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to move to the next one. Oops, I fell off. Okay, he's not really binding up very well. So that tells me he's probably not ready to be picked. So I'm going to put him back where he was. If I can get on him there. I'm trying to do this through the camera lens. And we're about as far as we're going to go. That was the last disc. So now what I'm going to do, it isn't open obviously. So now what we're going to do is go back and perhaps one of those that's fully clockwise now is ready to be picked. So there's the first one again. Nope, not yet. I believe that's the gate, as far clockwise as he will go. So I'm going to leave him alone. Let's try this next guy. He is in the gate, and I felt a slight turn on the core, so I'm going to leave him alone. Move to the next one. Come on, get through the keyway. Come on. Where are you? There you are. I believe he is very close to the gate, as far clockwise as he will go, so let's put him back. Keep moving. Oops, fell off. Let's put it back on there, try it again. Nope, no gate, so push him back. I fell off of him. Come on. Get through there. That's tight, pretty tight fit. There we go, I'm on him now. I felt a slight turn on the core again. Now I think we're probably pretty close. This is a good time to just see if maybe you can jiggle him a little bit. If he's close to the gate, sometimes this works and you'll get an open. Not in this case though, but we are close. So let's go back and check the top again. And there we go, that was the last one. There's a gate, it did turn, and we have an open. That wasn't the neatest job of picking one of these. In other words, it wasn't very efficient. I didn't practice it, but I think this gives you a realistic idea of what it's like to pick one of these locks. It doesn't always work on the first time or even the second pass through all the discs. You have to constantly test them. Whenever you find a disc that you don't know if it's inside of the gate or not, go ahead and rotate him all the way back as far clockwise as you can get him, and then come back to him later. If you pick him and you didn't find a gate and you just leave him in a random place, you'll never know if you try to pick him or not. So index him as far forward as possible, and that way later when you find one that's all the way forward, either he's been picked or he hasn't been picked and you can rotate him backwards. It just works out a little bit more efficient that way. Anyway, guys, this gives excellent, excellent feedback. Just remember, don't torque it too much. You saw how little pressure I was putting on it. When I found some resistance, I relaxed the tension on this just a little bit to allow it to rotate. If you find an immovable object, in other words, perhaps there's a spacer in there. Some of the spacers do have restrictions. You can't pick spacers. Once you position the pick on them and try to rotate them, they are not going to move at all. Don't try to force them, obviously, because they won't give up, but that tip certainly will. Take it easy on the tip, be gentle with it, and these things will last you a very, very long time. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal, and enjoy your new pick. Thanks, guys.